remember to.
Okay,
so you can call.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Do I need to have a
Roll call.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call. Gina, we're opening the meeting.
Present.
Okay, you're there. Cynthia, are you there? I don't see her. Not yet. Mike?
Yes.
Yes. Frank?
Not yet.
Not yet. Anne?
Yes.
Okay. Greg, are you there?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm here. Shimpe?
Yes, here.
Okay, good. And Iris, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, then we've started the meeting. We have public comment. We have 5 public comments. I want to keep everything under 15 minutes, so I think I'll be fairly strict about the 3-minute rule on this one. So let me go to the first one I have. The first one I have is Sherry Doran Harcohen. Are you there?
No.
No? Not there? Okay, fair enough. Rachel, are you there? Rachel?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, good evening.
Hi, this is Rachel from Springfield, Rachel Fiore from Springfield, and I have several kids attending PVCICS. Many of you have heard me share here about the shortcomings of the special education program. I know there are people who are being told PVCICS is not the right place for their kid right now, who don't know their rights, and I want to find all of them. I was reflecting about what I would do as a board member of a charter school where parents were coming to my meetings and telling me what I've been telling you for a year. I'd be looking for some answers. It's disappointing that that hasn't been the response, but I've said that before. I want you to know that parents are having conversations about all of this. Parents are talking about how mental health is handled here. We're talking about how bullying is handled here and investigated here. We're talking about media and technology consumption and how that affects our kids' well-being. Watching television at lunchtime instead of socializing, things like that. We are talking about this together, lots of us, and I hope that you will show some curiosity, courage, and leadership that's required of you. And to the parents listening, please just check on the families in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, because some don't know that this public school is supposed to be for them too, that what they are being told isn't always true. Do you know if your child is removed from a classroom for behavior, it has to be documented as a suspension? I didn't when they used to call me in kindergarten. When they knew, I knew they stopped. Ask parents if their kids have ever been sent home for behavior without documentation, because I'll tell you what, it was normalized. It was normalized to me the year before with a friend of mine whose kid was getting sent home. So I know it happens. I know it happened a couple years ago. I know it happened a few years before that. And I expect that it's probably still happening. So you can talk to any of the legal aid agencies in Massachusetts right now. It's on their radar. So they know it's happening. And, you know, the board should be concerned about this. Like I've said before, you guys should be concerned about parents coming here and saying, this is what's happening. It's against the law. I'm asking you to listen to me and to do something about it.
About 30 seconds.
Because that's where what you're supposed to do. So I ask that you ask how things are going, that you listen to their concerns. And I ask you to have compassion for these families who want their kids to come here too. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
She's here now.
Okay, she's here now. Sherry, are you there now?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shiri. I'm a parent of 2 children in the school, a 6th grader and a kindergartner. And I would just like to remind everyone that the school has a Special Education Parental Advisory Committee, or CPAC. The school, as a all schools, all public and charter schools in Massachusetts are legally required to engage with the CPAC. And I think that the school leaves a lot to be desired about how and whether to do so. I think we have an amazing group of parents who are very passionate about helping their kids thrive and have great ideas that could help the school do better on some of the metrics that the state is interested in for the expansion conditions. And I just would like to encourage the board to consider whether and how to engage more with the CPAC. And also, just to any parents who are listening, that there are a lot of great folks who have, wonderful resources for you. And I think a lot of parents, maybe not the ones who come to the board because they're pretty engaged, but perhaps the ones who don't have the time to be here tonight, or to come to other board meetings, may not realize that their kids are eligible for 504 plans or IEP plans. And so just encouraging people to look around and to encourage other parents to make sure that their kids' needs are being met by the school, and just to join us because it's a great community. So hopefully the board will consider engaging with the CPAC more in the near future. I, for one, would love to see that. And I think it would make the school a better place for all the kids who are here. Thank you. That's mainly what I wanted to say.
No, thank you very much, Sherry. All right, next I have Erin. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Erin McCarthy. I'm a resident of Granby. I have a child in the school, and I wanted to address two things this evening. First, I'm aware that the board is discussing transportation tonight per the state's condition. And just a reminder that parents have been asking for the bus reimbursement plan for 3 years. Now it's supposed to be happening finally because the state is asking the school to do it. However, that deadline is in 2 months. And parents have still not heard from the board or anyone about what our needs are, what our concerns are about transportation. But we have concerns about safety. We've never been told that our students are getting the safety drills for buses that's required by law. We have not heard anything about a plan. We have not seen outreach. We have parents concerned about not enough bus monitors or no monitors at all, sibling discounts. We need more routes, or there are concerns about overcrowding. So these are the things that parents want to talk to the board about, but there has been zero outreach, and it's 2 months until the deadline for you to submit this plan to the state. So that is a concern. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Secondly, I just wanted to reiterate a concern about how the board is responding to some of the state's conditions. One of the conditions required the board to review its bylaws and hire a consultant to review their bylaws, which you did, Marcy Cornell Feast. And I just wanted to share a couple very quick examples that raise my concerns about whether the board is taking this training and those recommendations seriously. So in Marcy's bylaws review, she says, I typically recommend a board size of 11 to 15 trustees. For the purposes of your bylaws, you could use a range of 7 to 15. On the board's proposed draft of new bylaws, they say a board size of no less than 5 and no more than 12. So that is one recommendation that is not being followed to the T. Another recommendation of hers was that the board have 2 3-year terms or 3 2-year terms. So in other words, a max term of 6 years. The proposed bylaw draft says that trustees shall be elected to no more than 4 5-year renewable terms. So Marcy is saying 6 years, and your new bylaws say 20 years. So that's very different from the recommendations you're being received. She also recommended that the board have at least 5 committees namely governance, finance, development, academic excellence, and CEO support and evaluation. The board in its proposed bylaws have
Is
not,
that done?
I just like
Rachel?
to finish my sentence, please. Has not recommended any new committees, and instead of the 5 recommended committees at least, your new bylaws say 3 committees: trusteeship,
you.
which is
Thank you.
not one of her recommendations,
Thank you.
finance,
You had
and
your
personnel and grievances. So again, the
Uh,
state is
uh, Liz,
asking you,
Are you there?
thank you for your time.
Thank you. Liz, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Would you like to speak?
Please, thank you. Good evening. My name is Liz. I have 3 children at the Chinese Immersion Charter School. I have 2 children in middle school and a 4th grader. So we have been at the school for about 9 years. I'm the head of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, along with my co-chair, Jennifer. This is my 2nd year as co-chair, and we are we sent an email to Charles. So Charles and the board, we would love to meet with all of you. And I think you got that email maybe about 10 days ago. I don't know that we've heard back, but we'd love to set up a time to meet with the board to talk about some of our concerns and where special ed is going, in particular with the new building. So we'd love to get a response. We have also emailed Sulu and Kathy. We are trying to set up, based on our coordination with MassPAC, some regular monthly or bi-monthly meetings with the special ed team to better understand how we can collaborate and really provide more for the students. We did have our first meeting. Those meetings are going to be held on Wednesdays, the 3rd Wednesday of every month. And we're going to alternate between Hampden and Hampshire County to make sure that we're reaching the widest array of parents. But we'd encourage the board and the administration to come to our Hampshire County, which is scheduled for this 3rd Wednesday in November. We've reached out to Kathy and we're looking for space at the school to hold that meeting every other month. So hopefully we will be able to access the school and provide a space for parents, administrators, and the board. You're welcome to come as well. In our first meeting, there were a couple of things that came up, and I wanted to share that with the board. The first overarching theme continues to be, we would like to see and have the opportunity to review the building and what specifications are permitted for special ed kids, in particular for kids who need BCBAs, kids who need special testing places. Currently, those individuals who, for example, need special testing are either put in a corner of a classroom or they're put into a different classroom, maybe the music classroom, but there's not really an entire space for special ed. So we do have concerns, and we're hopeful that we can collaborate with administration and the board to at least look at the new building, build out perspective, and get some input on that. Another continuing overarching theme from parents is there continues not to be a BCBA in the school. This is for children who definitely need it in order to perform their day-to-day functions at the school. And so we've asked the administration, are asking the board, how can we get these basic needs met where we do not have service providers and it's affecting children's ability to access education.
Thank you, Liz.
Oh, am I done?
Pretty much.
Oh, okay. Maybe CPAC could just have a little bit of more for
We're
special education.
I will be coming to your meeting next month, so maybe you can talk then. But let me get on with the material because we've got a meeting to run. Okay, thank you though.
Thank you.
All right, Michael Klein, are you there? Michael Klein?
Yeah, I don't see him.
I don't see him either. All right then, that's so I think we've done the public comment. Wow. Okay, we have some minutes that need to be approved. The minutes are for September the 25th. Do I hear a motion to accept these minutes?
Motion to accept, Gina.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Anne.
Thank you. Discussion. I hear none. In that case, we'll move to the vote. I'll do a roll call. Gina.
Yes.
Okay. Cynthia, are you there yet?
I don't see her.
Okay. Mike.
Yes.
Frank, are you there?
Yep.
Thanks. That's a yes for also the minutes, I suppose. That was a yes for the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anne?
Yes.
Greg, are you there yet?
He's not here yet.
Not yet. Shinpei?
Yes.
Okay. Iris?
Yes.
And yes for me too. Thank you. All right, then that's passed unanimously. Okay, charter amendments. Let's see. Training. Shinpei, are you able to talk about that to the board? The progress of what's happening with
What was
training?
your question?
Are you able to talk a little bit about training? What the progress is now? I've seen from correspondence that you're very active in working with DESE on training, and I'm wondering whether you have any comments.
So we just got her back today, but I have not had the chance to finish reading the email. This email was really sent within the last 2 hours. So not at this moment. It's
Okay.
quite a long response from DESE, so I'm going to need a little bit more time.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just quickly summarize it. The first, there are three sort of governance issues. And there was one that was training that was that the board completed. That was about, I think, with the open meeting law training or something like that. And then there's other training
I think it was
materials.
general training.
Well, basically everything that was required for training has been completed. It's been sent to DESE and was done by Marcy Cornell Feist. And we have heard back on some of it. We haven't heard back on all of it in terms of whether we've completed the requirement or not. But everything that our understanding is we've done everything that's been required at this point.
That's my understanding as well. But anyway, there's progress anyway on this, and that's it's wonderful news. And as I say, we've just received this 2 hours ago. Fair enough. Transportation. Charles, are you there?
I'm gonna start with the historical trends.
Okay.
Okay, so
Would you contact Charles? Let him know.
oh yes, I'll start the state maintains a database of information about charter schools, and so this is the Mass Charter School.
Can they see that?
Yes, that's up in the. I believe they can. Can you see this?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
there's no visual.
No screen. Okay, let me go back. Share. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a dashboard, and it provides a lot of information about enrollment, academics, attendance, suspension, retention, all kinds of stuff. It's gotten more detailed lately that you can get grade level information. And so I'm going to review some of the areas that DESE asked about just to consider in historical trends. And the first is just enrollment. And for enrollment, we can take a couple, I'm going to first sort of do student race, ethnicity. And so this is by year. And so the last dots here are the numbers for 2025. And so if we start out and look at, this is enrollment of, what is it? American Indians and rather Alaskan, and we have none. AS is Asian, and you'll see a red line and a black line. The black line is the school PVCICS, and the red line is the comparison index. And I'm looking at, and so we have a much higher percentage of Asians compared to the comparison index, which is a composite of all the districts that are in our region of service. And so the region is like 1.5%. We're at 19.2%. Then it's African American, and actually our region is 6.1%, and we're at 7.4%. 4%, so we're a little higher there. The next group is Latino and Hispanic Latino, and the comparison index is 33.9, we're at 10.5. The next is sort of multiracial, and we have a very high presence. 15.9% of our students are declare themselves multiracial. The Valley is more typical, right? Our region is more like 2.5%. Then we go into Hawaiian and Pacific Island, we have none. And then white students, the school is 47%, the comparable region, the number of comparison for our region is 40%. And so, and I'm not going to delve into a lot of detail on this, but it sort of gives you a sense of who's coming to the school. Then the thing that I also wanted to look at was these sort of overall numbers in terms of low-income students. And this is one of the areas where this regularly focused, because our overall low-income population is 17.6%, and our comparison index is quite high, is 51%. And so we'll get into a little more detail on that. If you look at the students who are English learners, our population is 3.6% versus comparison 7.5. Students with disabilities, our percentage is 14.9 compared to the comparison of 18.7. And then there's first language not English, which is, we have like 24% of the students are first language not English versus 15% for the comparison. And usually when I do annual reports, I tend to talk about the fact that with English learners, we have a very high graduation rate of students. And so I tend to focus on the fact that it was always been my belief that we recruit a healthy number of English learners, but then we tend to graduate them out of service. And we'll get into some of that information later on. And similarly for special education, one of the issues with special education is they call it students with disabilities, but actually that's not what they're measuring. What they're measuring is students with IEPs. And in order to get an IEP, you have to have a disability, but you also have to not be making adequately yearly progress. So if our students make adequate yearly progress, they don't get an IEP, and then our numbers are lower than what the comparison district. And I think that, I mean, again, we have a longer school day, a very strong academic program. And so I tend to view these numbers as being something where part of this is just the strength of our academic program. The fact that we have a lower number for low income, that raises more questions about how are we recruiting students. And this database lets you not only look at all grades, which is what this data is, but you can look at how are we doing recruiting students in 9th grade, which is one of our principal entry points. And I'm going to compare this to the state of Massachusetts, right? And so, because they don't have the same comparison to the district, but we're, what am I doing here? And I wanted to look at newly enrolled students. So this is getting into the notion, excuse me, percentage of newly enrolled students. So this is getting to the notion of who is coming in as a new student into 9th grade. And it ends up that this year, 44.4% of the students who came in rather in 2025 were low income, okay? And the comparison index, which does exist for this data point, is 21%, which is, again, the comparison to our region of service. So we're recruiting far more low-income students than our comparison index. If you look at 6th grade, again, we're recruiting more students, low-income students into the school in 6th grade than our comparison index. We're at something like 40% of the students are coming into 6th grade in 2025 were low-income students. Where the number falls off is in kindergarten. So in kindergarten, which is where most of our new students enter the school, the percentage for PVCICS is 13.6%, and the comparison index is 40.7%. And and I need to contact Michelle. It ends up that and I'm going to have our director of operations, who's going to be speaking later, will speak to this. But he's from Springfield. He formerly worked with the Boys and Girls Club in Springfield, and he's talking to parents from the Springfield area. And again, this is representative of urban populations, and we have 3 major urban sending areas, which is Springfield, Holyoke, and Greenfield, all of whom are supported by buses. And again, I'll have Charles talk to it when he gets here, but the net of it is that many parents are hesitant to put their kids on a bus from these communities because it's a long trip. And he said that, parents said things like, well, if the child gets sick, then I have to go pick up the child in kindergarten, and there's greater awareness that there's children get sick in kindergarten. And so there's hesitancy from the parents to put the kids on the bus. And so part of the challenge we face isn't necessarily that our recruitment effort isn't working. I think it is working, and I think the 6th and 9th grade numbers show that. But the challenge is that parents coming from these urban districts, which are the low performing districts, and have a high percentage of high need students, are hesitant to put their students on the bus. And so that's sort of a interesting factors. So that gives an indication of what's going on globally with a lot of the high needs populations in terms of enrollment. The state asked us about attendance, and so we can go over to the attendance data, and I'm going to go look at all grades, and I'm going to start with gender. Okay, and this side is sort of all of our students, and this side is the specific subgroup, and so this is female students. And what you'll see here is that our attendance rate is higher than the state average for female students. Our chronic absentee rate is lower than the state average for our female students. If I click on male students again, our attendance is strong and our chronic absence is low. If non-binary, there's no student representation there. If we go to race, ethnicity, we don't have enough we don't have any American Indian native students, so there's no data there. If we go to Asian, you see that our attendance is higher than the state and our chronic absentee is lower than the state. For African American, there was a blip in 2023, which you can see in the state data. It's particularly high for the African American students at PVCICS, but it declined, not as low as we'd like it to be, but it's declined some. And so that's sort of, again, the data point there is anomalous. And you can see it again also in the chronic absentee rate for all the students, that it's higher in that year for whatever reason. Similarly for Latino students, in this case, the attendance is strong, is above state average, and the chronic absentee is below state average across the board. For multi-race students, again, we have strong attendance. We have lower chronic absentee. We don't have any Native Hawaiian, and for white students, again, our attendance is stronger and our absentee is lower. For selected populations, which is again high need students, if for English learners, our attendance is okay. Our chronic absentee is low. For first language not English, they don't really record that. For high need students, again, our attendance is above the state average. Our chronic absentee is lower. For low income students, again, attendance is higher than state average. The chronic absentee is lower. Again, we have this blip in 2022. Students with disability, our attendance is higher than state average. Our chronic absentee is lower. So that covers the attendance piece of it. If we go into attrition, okay, and attrition is where students are leaving the school. And so, and if we look at, and the data here, there's a red line, which is sort of the comparable index, which is again a comparison to our region of service. The black line is PVCICS, and the dotted line is sort of the one standard deviation. So if you exceed the one standard deviation, it's sort of where the state says that's more of cause concern. So for female, we're tracking the state average for male. We're tracking the state average for non-binary. We'd have no data. If we go into racial subgroups again, we don't have any American Indians. For Asians, we're generally tracking the state average. It's actually a little higher than the state average in some cases. And again, this is talking about attrition, which is again a measure of students leaving the school. Black and African American, again, we had a blip in 2023, but the numbers came down. And so the generally we're tracking the closer, we're around the composite index. Hispanic Latino students, again, we had a blip here and it's come back down again low. I don't know what this high numbers came from. Multi-race, non-Hispanic, we're tracking the comparable index. We don't have Hawaiians. The white students, we're tracking the comparable index. And some of these numbers, the numbers will vary because if you're dealing with a small group of population, the variances that you get are more significant than with a larger group, just because small changes cause bigger average changes. Okay, again, talking about selected populations, and this is again all students, and this is for attrition. If we look at English learners, the number was 0 for 2 years, and then it bounced up above the composite index, but the attrition is low. First language, not English, they don't report. High needs, again, we're tracking closely to the composite index, and we're below the 1 standard deviation in terms of students leaving the school. Low income, again, generally tracking the composite index, and so and below the standard deviation mark. Students with disability, again, a little more volatile in terms of the numbers, just because I think it's a lower population than low income, but it's generally tracking the composite index, and it was actually low in 2025, and it's below the 1 standard deviation measure. And so there isn't a lot to be concerned here, at least as far as I'm concerned. And then they asked about retention as another metric. And these are students that are being retained. And so and you want that number to be low. And so again, if we start with gender, the green line is the state average, the black line is PVCICS, and we're under the state, consistently for female retention. We're under the state consistently for male retention. There isn't the data to support non-binary. For race and ethnicity, we don't have any American Indian students. Asians, again, a little bit below the state average. Black and African American, below the state average in terms of retention rate. Hispanic Latino, below the state average. Yeah, these numbers are all 0. Multi-race, non-Hispanic. Yeah.
Rich, question. When you say retention, are you talking about the ability to keep students in the school or retain them in grade?
I believe it's in grade. Okay. And so the Native Hawaiian, no numbers. White, again, below the state average. And so the basic, hello?
Hi, retention in this chart is retention in the school, not grade retention, just to clarify.
I stand corrected. Okay, but our retention numbers are below the state averages across the board. Okay, and then for selected populations, again, all students were below the state. English learners is below the state. First language, not English, no data. High needs, below the state. Low income, below the state. Students with disability, below, well, there's one blip in 2023, which is a blip year, but typically below the state. And again, this is a minor variation compared to the state average. So there's really not a lot to see here. The area where, and again, I'll have Charles Branch speak about it, and I have to contact him to have him come on the system, but he's he again worked for the Springfield Boys and Girls Club, so he interacts with a lot of younger kids in the area and can provide some insight into what he's hearing from parents in Springfield, which I think is probably representative of what's going on in also Holyoke and Greenfield as well. So does anybody have any questions about what I presented here in particular?
Well, it just seems to me, I mean, I could be misreading this or not understanding this completely. It says that in terms of retention, we're below the state average. So that means we lose kids more often than the state average?
No, attrition is losing kids, right? And our attrition is lower than the state average typically, or
Right.
it's just again, retention is based on Kathy's more informed information, is us keeping kids from graduating, right? Is that what it is, Kathy? That it's 12th graders being retained.
No, it's students staying within the school. We rarely retain students in the same grade, or most of our seniors graduate.
Right.
Right,
So,
okay.
Kathy, I mean, do you see this as being concerning at all?
No,
This retention rate?
no.
Okay.
Low is good, right?
No, I don't think so.
I believe it. Okay, we got two people in the waiting room. I'm gonna go.
Okay, all right.
Well, let me look at it in more detail. I can, the
Okay,
numbers on
and-
the shared screen are very small, but our numbers are very strong overall. I'm going to present accountability numbers, which I think may be more.
Okay,
I'm going to drill down into those in more detail.
I'll take a look for the definition. Again, I think Charles Branch is here, and so again, I'm going to put up the enrollment numbers, and I'm going to look at kindergarten, and I'm going to look at the percent of enroll. And Charles, are you there?
Hello, can everybody hear me properly?
Okay, and again, this is Charles Branch, is the Director of Operations. He's new this year. He came to us from the Springfield Boys and Girls Club, and he has a lot of interaction with students in the Springfield area, and I think probably with PVCICS too. So if you have any insights to share here, that would be appreciated.
Can I make one comment about this dashboard?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is all publicly available data. And one thing for parents or, people viewing this for the first time, there's many ways to slice and dice the data, and DESE is actually trying to have everything on the website. Post-COVID for the state, and maybe you saw the headlines last month, the state's very focused on performance for schools post-COVID, because during that period, the scores went down, the performance of the schools went down, attendance went, chronic absenteeism skyrocketed. And so there are districts that are still working on that. But we're doing well. And when I go into my section about accountability, it sort of summarizes all of these metrics into yet another set of metrics. But I don't want to take time from Charles.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? So you guys can hear me properly?
Yep.
Yeah, I do want to
All right.
switch this so that everybody can see him if he's available.
Okay, I'm gonna.
My camera is off because I'm actually sitting in a Wendy's parking lot. I made it halfway to practice, so I decided to just stop just to make sure we can do this.
Okay.
So, Rich, you should stop sharing, or you could run Charles's presentation probably while he talks.
Are you able to do your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing, and I can make you the host, and you know what to do.
Yep.
Okay, so I've stopped sharing. I'm back to the screen. I found you. I'm going to make you the host.
Okay.
And you are now the host.
All right, sounds good. All right. So first of all, thank you guys for having me. Just to touch base real quick on the earlier comment. So I worked at the Boys and Girls Club Family Center in Springfield. So I have a good relationship with the program director there for preschool. So I was talking to her about this so she can socialize it with her parents. Also, I run the Springfield Football Club soccer program. And we have kids in our program from 3 years old to 18. And I also work with other soccer associations like in the area as well. So when we go to our games, we interact with the different parents. And generally, we've been socializing the school with parents, and particularly around the kindergarten age group. The main feedback that we have been receiving is that parents are just not necessarily comfortable sending their kids to school that far at that age. In a lot of families, it's multi-generational. So if the parents are at work, or if mom is at work and she can't go pick up the kid, generally grandma will go pick up the child. So in a lot of instances, they're not comfortable having the child that far away. So that has been the consistent theme in the feedback. Everybody agrees that it's a great school. Both my daughters are at the school. Both of them started off in kindergarten. So we've been speaking about the school in high regard before I even started working there. But that has generally been the feedback that we've received from multiple parents consistently, is just the distance of the school is the main concern for them regarding sending kids at a younger age. Transitioning to the transportation considerations with regards to the due diligence that we've been doing. So a brief comparison of the two models. So this is our current transportation program. We currently have 4 buses that take care of 6 routes. The annual cost per bus is $87,582, which gives us an annual cost for the 4 buses of $350,330. Currently, that's 2.94% of our annual budget. The annual cost does not include things like field trips or sports-related transportation. This is strictly getting the kids to school and then getting them back home from school. The student cost is income-based, so students who qualify for free or reduced lunch don't incur a fee. The proposed transportation model that is linked to the approval, we worked with 5-Star to put together to say, okay, what would that model look like given the amount of students that we have? We provided the addresses to them, and this was the information that we got back. So in order to facilitate this, we would need to have anywhere from 19 to 22 buses. The range of, they gave us a range because one of the things that we were concerned about is the length of time that the students would be on the bus, especially our younger students. So that's where the 22 buses comes in on the extreme end to try and keep it a little bit over an hour. But again, the goal is to have it at maximum at an hour. So that's where the 22 buses comes in. So that would give us an annual cost of $1,664,069 to $1,926,817 for that range of 19 to 22 buses. That would put us anywhere from 13.99% to 16.2% of our annual budget. So you can see the increase there. The additional cost from what we currently have for the additional 15 buses to get to the 19 would be $1,313,739. And to get the additional 18 buses to get to the 22 would be $1,576,486. And for the impact of the annual budget, that would be 11% roughly to 13.25% of our annual budget. Again, the annual cost does not include things like field trips, but sports-related transportation, bus monitors for elementary students, and bus duty staffing. These are the staff who basically help us with the dismissal process. They take attendance to make sure all the kids are on the correct bus. We know who's taking the car line versus who's been on the bus, so that accountability is there. Some additional considerations, the reimbursement process. So as part of our due diligence, we reached out to another school that is currently using this program. And again, some additional research basically on the transportation website lets you know that the reimbursement is subject to annual legislative appropriation. 2 years after the expenses incurred is generally when you would get reimbursed for it. So up until that point, you have to absorb all of the costs, and you're not necessarily sure at the time you're absorbing the cost, what the reimbursement rate would be as it's set in that particular year. You have an average rate of 70 to 75%. However, in the past, it has been as low as 29%. So if we were to, on the lower end, for the 19 buses, it would be 9.93% of our annual budget. For 22 buses, it would be somewhere around the lines of 11.5% of our annual budget. If we were to be on the higher end with the 75% reimbursement, it would basically be about 416,000, which equates to about 3.5% of our annual budget. On the higher end, it would be 481,000 for the 22 buses, and that comes out to about 4% of our annual budget. Additional considerations based on the school that we were working with, based on the program that they offer. In order to make this work for them financially, they had to eliminate some of their districts. So they went from 35 districts to 18. Those students can still attend the school, but they're considered out of region. So they don't qualify for bus service. And then as it comes to the admission preference, specifically the enrollment lottery, they wouldn't qualify for those either. Questions, comments, concerns, hearsay?
Let me throw other people in. I've got some questions, but
okay.
Who else would like to talk?
Yeah, I have a question. It indicated on the first page that students would be transported within 2 miles of their home.
Yeah, so the requirement is that you have a bus stop within 2 miles of every enrolled student.
Okay, so this would not be door-to-door service?
No.
Okay, I think that's important information for people to know.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yes, that's a good point.
So under this proposal, then as part of the plan, local stops would be set up in each town?
Yeah, so you would have multiple bus stops within each town.
Okay.
To meet the 2 mile requirement.
To make sure that every student is being picked up or dropped off within 2 miles of their home.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the routes could change every year based on enrollment in the school. So basically they redo it based on who's coming into the program.
Okay. Jos, I'd like to have your impression about right now. There seems to be a transfer of costs from the federal government to state governments. We're losing a lot of funding. I'm wondering, have you given any thought to the possible impact that may have on transportation plans in general, and in particular to plans which are run by charter schools, which are not required to provide, unlike other schools, are not required to provide service? Wondering whether they could mark it down to 0, for instance, the reimbursement rate. Have you given any thought to that?
Yes, definitely, because that's one of the main things. So as you can see, where is it? Yep, so as you can see here, the top bullet basically says that the approval is basically subject to the to annual legislative appropriation each year. So if that is one of the items that basically gets cut, then there is no reimbursement for the transportation costs. So you can incur, so for example, in the case of like we incurred a cost in 2025, and then they say, okay, in 2026, they're doing away with that particular line item. Then we just have to basically absorb all of that cost.
And they could do that without that would not affect the regular kind of public schools, because they have a mandate to provide that. But there's no mandate for charter schools.
For charter schools, correct.
And so this might be a place where if there was a need to cut the expenses, this might be an area where those expenses could be cut.
Correct. And then when you look at, you know, based on the research that we've been doing, we've been looking at what other regional, what other charter schools have been dealing with who have been in this program before. And one of the things that they, one of the main things that they cite is just how volatile that process basically is. Because if that, like you said, if that line item gets cut, they're not getting any reimbursement. So they're stuck with that, and it fluctuates annually. At the same time, you don't know going into it. There is no guarantee that you will get reimbursed. There is no guarantee at what rate you will be reimbursed. So from a budgeting perspective, it's also a nightmare.
Okay. I got more to talk about, but I think we could talk privately on that.
Okay.
No, but
No, well, you
administration.
Well, you can talk. Yes, you can. The board can.
No, I can talk to the administration on that. Let me see.
This is Kathy. I have a question also. The financial numbers here are just for the first year. So
Correct.
These numbers don't yet build in possible inflation or things like that. And I only bring that up because when COVID hit, everybody was in lockdown, so we didn't need the buses, but we continued to pay the bus company just to make sure we would have buses. And when we did open up, thankfully they had buses for us. And I think that's because we've continued to fund them. But gas prices, I don't know if people remember, gas prices were extraordinarily high. So not being able to necessarily predict some of those factors, whatever model we use in the financials should take into account, you know, these numbers, which are literally year one given to us now, and then what factor for inflation or unforeseen things related to funding that we need to build in.
I've got another question for you, Charles. I don't want to dominate this. Anybody else got a question before I ask my next question?
This is Gina. I have a question. I actually have two comments. The first question is this projection considering both sites? Because it seems like the transportation between our two sites would also need to happen. And I'm wondering how that factors in here. And I'm also just expressing concern about creating a smaller servicing region, which seems like the other comparable school, that was their method for creating a workable budget here. But for us, creating a smaller serviceable region, I think would be really detrimental to our school community. Just offhand and thinking about probably the most expensive regions to service are the farthest away for us. And so how would that actually, you know, how do we see that playing out in this model? What would make, you know, what would be the region that we would potentially cut in order to create a budget that makes sense for our school?
Well, we're not quite there yet. Right now, we're still trying to do our due diligence. So again, this is where we're getting this data now. So working with 5-Star and working with PVPA to kind of learn what their experience has been, and working with 5-Star to get the data in regards to, based on our current contract and our current student enrollment, what would this look like? So this is not taking into consideration the additional site. So this is strictly with one site, and then this is just the financial piece of it. The other piece that, you know, we spoke with PVPA heavily about is the logistical piece of it. So the additional site would then, that's where that piece would basically come in addition to the finances, the logistics of basically doing this. So that's something, like I said, we will, once we start to flesh this out more, we will basically get to that. But this data is specifically for the current students that we have, given our current situation.
One of the features of the PVPA implementation, and again, PVPA is the only school, I believe, in the state that has this model. Again, this is a very large region of service. If you look at other regional route systems, it might be, you know, 4 or 5 communities, right? This is a huge region of service. And even with PVPA scaling it back to, I forget what it was, 18 districts or whatever, that's still far larger than a typical regional bus service is. And so the amount of money that they're putting into that is quite high compared to, compared if you look at Amherst public schools and what percentage of their budget is going to buses, it's much smaller than the numbers we're talking about here, because the region they're servicing, it may be more buses, but it's a much smaller region. The other feature is that PVPA had the space to park, I think 16 buses on
16
their
buses,
property,
that's correct.
and also have a separate route for drop off for parents. Okay, so they can park the 16 buses, load and unload students, and have a separate car line. Using our current facility, that's going to be quite the challenge. Using the new facility, there's more space there, but you've hit upon a point, which is if we're going to have that occur at the new facility, there's going to be also time getting from the new facility to the old facility. And so when you start looking at things like you want to make sure that the bus ride is less than an hour long, that's another complication that we need to address. Right now, these numbers are just basic numbers. What do it cost to bus the kids to the current facility? And the numbers are going to be similar, but again, if you're doing the two facilities, you're going to have additional delays in terms of covering the two facilities. And again, my underlying concern is that, if we end up spending, $1.9 million that we invest up front to cover the first year, and then we're out $1.9 million to cover the second year, and then the state says, that's an awful lot of money for a gigantic region of service for a charter school, which is unrepresentative of any other transportation system in the state. And really, transportation for charter schools is optional. Okay, I can imagine if the times are tight, they're going to say, we're going to use the money for the people who are required to provide it, not necessarily for the people who are not required to provide it. So there's a risk associated with it. But again, we want to look at all the details and see what the options are. Every possibility. And we want to also go talk to the state and see what their what guidelines they can give us in terms of how this should be framed, because we don't want to prejudge the situation. But there are concerns based on the numbers we're seeing here that there seems to be financial risk. And again, it's not a typical, PVPA is the only regional bus system like this in the state, to my knowledge. They're brand new and they just started it this year, so their experience is quite limited.
Gene, does that answer your question?
I just want to say I agree with Rich. It's Frank jumping in here. We don't want to get stuck with the bill on this. And what works for one charter school may not necessarily work for another charter school, right? What works for one community may not work for another community. So we have to approach this with caution. I agree with Rich. We don't want to get stuck with the bill. So we're going to look at it. And I think we should exercise caution. That's all I'm saying. So, well,
no, agreed. And that's one of the main things that we're looking at, because even in the case of PVPA, we won't necessarily know how it works until they actually get reimbursed.
Correct.
Because like they're incurring the cost right now, but reimbursement is still basically not for like another couple of years. And one of the things when we had the meeting with them to observe their process and have a lessons learned session with them from their experience, they are going to be increasing the amount of buses that they have, because they have a few routes that are over an hour and they want to decrease that. So they are adding, they're potentially looking to add 3 additional buses to get to about like 19 to try and address that situation. So they've been very helpful in providing information in regards to like what their experience has been. So we're very much thankful to them for that. However, like I said, we won't really know if it actually works until they get to the point where they actually get reimbursed, and they can see what that is. Based on their calculation, they're anticipating 85% reimbursement. But always, like I said earlier, that's not guaranteed or documented anywhere that they will receive that.
Right.
But that's basically how they're doing their planning. So
Right.
we basically went with what the average rate is based on the general research that's out there overall for the state. So that's where we got the 75% reimbursement rate. So that's basically where we are, but valid point.
I just don't want to get anybody's hopes up. That's all, because
No. It's about that. It's making the decision, which is based on proper research and so on. And
yes.
we want to do the right thing.
Yes.
So, does anybody else have any comment? I have one remaining item.
I have a,
I
I
have
have
a
a comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
Sure.
go ahead.
I'll go second.
Okay, who's going to go first? I don't see it. I'm working on a Zoom.
This is Kathy. I had a comment, but I defer to a board member first.
Ooh.
Oh, Kathy, now you don't have to do that. I just want to clarify that if I understand what's being said, the state is required to reimburse public school districts for their transportation, but it's not required to reimburse charter schools for their transportation. Is that correct?
What we're saying is that the public school districts are required to provide the service, right? Charter schools are not required to provide the service.
Oh, okay.
So that's the distinction. The reimbursement is, yes, right now we would be eligible for reimbursement. The question is, if the economy turns really bad, which some people are concerned about, where will they cut money from? And if you're talking about a program at a charter school, which is not required by law, okay? And also, I have to say that this program, just by its nature, that you're doing such a large region of service, is quite expensive.
Yeah.
And given the fact that this is being something that's a line item budget approval thing, people start saying where we're going to take the scalpel to. We're a charter school, and you know, it's not like the charter association is going to stand up and say take care of PVCICS. We're kind of on our own.
Yeah.
And so I think the question is, do we have faith that the state will continue to reimburse the transportation system and in general, okay, at the same level, or might they cut it to 29% as they've done in the past? And two, will they have any particular view about funding transportation for charter schools where it's not legally required? It's something charter schools opt to do, but they're not required to do.
I'd like you to, one other point, I'd like you to compare the impact on, say, another local district, say Amherst, and us as a percentage of their budget.
Kathy did some quick calculation. Do you want to talk about that?
I don't have their very long budget in front of me, but I think it's typically less than 5%. But what my comment, if I could, was just to refresh people's memory. Our region of service goes literally from the Vermont border. So our northernmost communities are, it's sort of a geography lesson here, Rowe, Heath, Coleraine. So those are literally Northfield, Warwick, those are literally on the Vermont border, as far to south to the Connecticut border. So we still include Granville, Southwick, Agawam, Longmeadow, East Longmeadow. So we literally span from Vermont to Connecticut and, you know, the stuff in between. So that's point one. The second thing related to regional districts, it is true there are other regional districts in Massachusetts. Right now, we have the largest region in the state. PVP, we actually copied PVPA's original region when we opened, and now that they've shrunk it, they are still one of the largest, probably the second largest region of service in the state. The other schools, when you read the papers, or maybe some of the parents are from regional districts, are typically districts that the region of service is 3 to 4, sometimes 5 if you're up in Franklin County, contiguous neighboring towns. And so the number of communities in the region is significantly less than even what PVPA is doing. They're single digit regions, and you know, Amherst has 4. The last point I want to make is in those, they file for reimbursement using the same formula, which is they provide a bus stop within 2 miles of every residential address, which is very dynamic. If you get a student in the middle of the year, you would add a stop. If the student withdraws in the middle of the year, you just eliminate that stop. So that is consistent with the regional districts. What is different is, and I can use Amherst as an example, the first 2 years before you get reimbursement, the towns in the region negotiate to share the cost initially. So in Amherst, 4 towns would divide up like the busing costs. And then typically it's apportioned by a percentage of the students that are in that region, if that makes it at its most simplistic. So all the other regional schools that are not charters do divide up this initial busing cost until they get reimbursed 2 years later. So that was my last point. So from a financial model, I think, we'll run a lot of numbers and stuff like this. What this model includes is sort of what we just sort of at a very high level in terms of we need these communities service. What this model doesn't yet include, which we have to build in, is that we have elementary students. So these buses are mixed age buses like what we run now. PVPA does not have elementary students. So, I think Charles mentioned they were looking at the length of the ride, and they do have some buses. They told us the longest bus they have is 1 hour and 16 minutes. And I actually talked to one of the bus drivers who was subbing for one of our routes. She does 60 miles each way. So again, with students in 7th through 12th grade, which is what they have, I think that's easier for those students to sit that long. One thing we've been discussing with the bus company is first cut, give us this multi-age bus like we do now. But second is we should probably look at long routes and elementary students and how long they can sort of sustain and what is best practice. And one of the bus people even suggested one of the bus drivers said, well, why don't you split off elementary and run buses for them and then run buses for middle high school? But then she's acknowledged, well, that's 2 sets of runs. So, but we'll build a lot of stuff into the model.
Kathy, I've got another point, but I'd like to ask Charles, and that's the basis of this is, does it include, I don't know what you call it, a monitor or a supervisor on these buses with a mix?
No.
So the to be really safe, some of these buses at least may have to have a monitor. What kind of impact would that have on the costs?
So that's basically the additional staffing cost that would basically go into that. So as you see here in this last bullet, basically the annual cost does not include things like bus monitors for elementary students, which we currently have. And then given the amount of buses that you have, you would then need to increase your number of bus duty staff. So for example, each day when the buses arrive, you have specific staff that will get the clipboard with the attendance sheet. And as the kids basically get on the buses, they're basically checking them off. If we're missing a kid, then we're communicating within the school internally to identify, okay, is this kid, looking for something, they're getting a laptop, or are they in the car line today, for example, just to make sure we have that documented before the buses leave.
Okay, thank you. It's getting late, but does anybody else have any comment or any questions for Charles or any of us? Hearing none, I'll move on to the next issue. Thank you very much, Charles. A great
You're
presentation.
very welcome. Thank you all.
All right, so let's see. Okay, that's transportation.
I'm going to reclaim the host.
Okay.
Yep, just give it back to you.
Okay.
Should be all set.
Let's see.
Thank you.
Enrollment policy and bylaws. The enrollment policy has been approved. Bylaws. We understand that there's likely to be a meeting in the next 2 weeks or so with DESE on bylaws. So anybody got any comments, any updates on that? Do you have anything? Okay, fair enough. Let's see. I guess we now move on to Trusteeship Committee. Frank, do you have anything?
No, I have nothing.
Okay,
I'll hold a meeting. I'll hold a meeting in December to get geared up for recruitment.
Okay, you're kind of stuck for a while, aren't you? Iris, do you have anything for the Finance Committee? Iris? All right. Are you there, Iris? In that case, let me say that we had a, oh, that, no?
I can speak to it.
Sorry,
fair enough.
sorry. I started talking. I realized that I was muted. As a finance committee, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
Loud and
okay.
clear.
Thank you, thank you. I started talking and then realized I nobody could hear me. Yes, the finance committee. That's Nick and Rich and I. We met this Tuesday. And the main thing is Nick reviews July, this July is a credit card file. We have no issue. And the second is the August financials, we reviewed that and a surplus reported. And the third is the committee voted to recommend the approval of the 2025 financial audit. And the more specifics will be, and Rich will give us a more specific summary. Rich?
Okay. Yes, and I sent out the draft financials. I sent out a management letter that goes with it. I also sent out the something called additional required information, which is something new that the state came up with this year. And so you've had a chance to review that. We were sent a summary letter by Sharon Blaskowitz, who's the auditor, and I'll just read through this. It's addressed to the Board of Trustees. She said, we recently completed, and I sent you all this, a copy of this as well. We recently completed our audit of the financial statements of Pioneer Valley Chinese Merchant Charter School, the school, and its blended component unit for the year ended June 30th, 2025. The following are some significant items on your financial statements. One, the management discussion analysis were prepared by Richard Alicorn, Director, and Scott Josephson from Nonprofit Data Management, who I think is actually here today. Total assets of June 30th, 2025 were $21,067,000, the largest being $2,786,000, a decrease of $72,000 from the prior year. And then it says property and equipment net value of $17,688,000, an increase of $145,000 from the prior year due to capital purchases, net depreciation expense for the current year. Total liabilities as of June 30th, 2025 were $16,464,000, the largest being long-term debt and mortgages, which is $15,480,000, and accrued expenses of $847,000, which includes accrued wages. Liabilities decreased due to principal payment on debt in 2025. The organization has a current ratio in 2025 of $2.01 to 201 to 1 compared to 232 to 1 in 2024. This means for every $1 of liabilities, there were $2 of assets. This is a good position. Tuition increased by approximately $1,400,000 due to an increase in tuition rates per student from 2024 to 2025 and increased enrollment. Operating expenses increased by approximately $1,024,000, excluding on-benefit pension. This increase is directly related to salary increases, new hires, depreciation, student activities, and utilities. There was a net income in 2025 of $357,000 compared to a net income in 2024 of $21,000. The increase in 2025 is related to increase in tuition income. There were 2 non-compliance findings recorded for the financial statements in accordance with government auditing standards. And basically, the state changed the rules for audit, and so some old paperwork that wasn't closed out became audit findings, and we are not alone in having findings. I'm told many schools in the state of Massachusetts sort of got caught by a late announcement that they changed the rules, but we'll clean that up. Then it ends with, we have attempted to keep this information brief. We are pleased to elaborate or respond to inquiries impacting or reported on your financial statements or regarding our audit. And so we basically, and again, as Iris reported, the Finance Committee reviewed the audit with the auditor, and a representative from Nonprofit Data Systems, who's a bookkeeping company, and made a recommendation that the board approve the audit. And so we can go from there.
Right. So we need to vote then.
Or make a motion.
We need to make a motion to accept the financial audit. Let's see. Do I hear a motion? Anybody want to put forward the idea of accepting the financial audit for this year?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Gina.
Thank you, Gina. All right, then
Discussion.
in that case, we move to discussion. It's been sent out. Are there any points that we need discussing on the audit? I'm hearing nothing. Then let's move to vote. Gina, do you vote?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Cynthia's not here. Mike.
Yes,
Cynthia's here.
Cynthia's
Oh,
here.
sorry, Cynthia. Are you for or against?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Mike.
Yes,
Frank.
Yes.
Okay. Anne.
Yes.
Greg, are you there? No. Okay. Shinpei.
Yes.
Iris.
Yes.
And I vote to accept it as well. Thank you. It passes unanimously. Let's see. Personnel Committee. Gina, do you have anything?
No updates from the Personnel Committee.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have now the principal's update.
Hi,
Over to you.
everybody. Make me host so I can share.
You got it.
Okay, let's see. Presentation. Okay, can people see a slide?
yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I am going to talk about accountability, but I wanted to do my usual. Today's school day 46. The first quarter ended yesterday, which is 45 days. So we're 1/4 of the way through the school year. Friendly reminder to parents, which I'm going to send out in an email, change your clocks this weekend. It's already fall back. School calendar, again, friendly reminder, has all the links to boards, CPAC calendars. There's a lot of stuff. I always feel like this part of the school year goes really fast once it gets dark at 4:30. We just finished a successful parent-teacher conference series of 3 half-days last week. We have, as is typical, very high participation from the parents. So thank you to the parents, but also thank you to the teachers. You know, we buy snacks for them. For them, it's like back-to-back, meetings and everything. Last meeting, I mentioned MCAS scores were going to be posted. We did receive the spring 2025 MCAS scores from DESE, and they have been posted in the parent portal in PowerSchool. I have a note in italics here. Last month, DESE was very excited to say they were rolling out what they called a MCAS family portal, and they were planning on having it up and running on October 1st. Based on feedback from the districts, they have postponed rolling that out because the software really wasn't in a mature enough phase. So I don't have a new date, but I just wanted the board to be aware that last month I said, hey, this is coming. DESE then right after that meeting said, no, it's not. So that's about that. And we are, believe it or not, enrolling and registering students in middle school and high school already for the winter season. This year, we're continuing. Basketball used to be our only sport in the winter. We added downhill skiing a number of years ago, thanks to some very dedicated parents. We added cross-country skiing, similarly, from some parents who were spearheading that. We are adding wrestling this year. We are doing a co-op with Granby and Amherst. Granby was hosting it, but they discontinued the program, so we are running that. We are continuing our co-op ice hockey. And then we are starting, well, we've always had a lion dance club, but we're going to try to make it more like a club sport because it does require a bit more time than once a week, which is what we had. So to stay on track, accountability, I wanted to put this slide up because it can be a little confusing if you go on the DESE website. As a charter school, we actually have two sets of accountability metrics. The first is called the accountability system, which I'm going to talk about tonight. That accountability system applies to all public schools in Massachusetts. It allows DESE or any other person who wants to look at the data, which is on the public DESE website, to compare schools to each other. And that was the intent of the accountability system. The metrics and indicators that I'll be showing you, just a small setup, are set by DESE and apply to all schools. As a charter school, we also have something called an accountability plan, which is a 5-year plan that we work with DESE to set metrics that are specific to our charter school. And this applies to all charter schools. So, you know, our metrics in our accountability plan would be different from, say, well, we've been talking about PVPA or Hilltown or any of the other charter schools. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware there were two sets of accountability metrics. So I'm going to talk about the accountability system, which applies to all public schools in Massachusetts. And so really at the top, the definition that DESE uses is it's designed to measure how a school or district, and we happen to be a district of one school, how they're doing. And so the accountability system considers the following factors. One is achievement. And so they look at MCAS scores for English, math, and science. They look at student growth in English and math. And I'm going to talk more about growth because that is actually the most important sort of metric that DESE has been looking at, particularly post-COVID. Because as I mentioned earlier, scores went down during COVID due to the lockdown, and the state is very concerned about the growth in terms of having them come back to 2019 levels and maybe even beyond. They look at high school completion. If a district has high school, which yes, clearly we do have high school. They look at progress towards English proficiency for students who are English learners. They look at chronic absenteeism, and just for background knowledge, chronic absenteeism is considered if you when students are absent for more than 10% or more of the days they were enrolled in a given school. So if they're enrolled for the entire school year, which is 180 school days, they're absent 18 or more school days. And it really doesn't matter if they're excused or unexcused. DESE counts absence as absence, which can be confusing for some parents because, you know, we require parents to, you know, tell us whether it's a absence that's excusable or by choice. And then finally, for high schools, they look at advanced coursework completion. And this metric really relates to preparing students out of the K-12 system into higher education. So graduation numbers, dropout numbers, things like that are important for the state. So those are the ways they look at it. The results for 2025 have just recently been posted. And so anybody can go access the results for any district in the Commonwealth. You go to the DESE website, you click on school profiles, and then you click on it. There's a tab that says accountability. Don't do it right now because actually it turns out their system is down till around 9:30 tonight for maintenance. Because I was checking it before this meeting. And so, but they are available for anybody to view. They have different tabs. The overall classification for a school is not requiring, for us, we got an overall classification called not requiring assistance or intervention. That would be assistance or intervention from DESE if they felt we were not meeting our targets. And these targets, again, because this is the accountability system, these targets and metrics are set by DESE. And so part of what's called the overall classification is this terminology, meeting or exceeding targets. So we have consistently met or exceeded our targets. They also have combined with this because they want to provide a quantitative measure that they can use for, the public or parents or school staff to use. They have an accountability percentile. Their definition is, like any percentile, it's a number between 1 and 99. In this case, the number is an indication of the school's overall performance relative to other schools that serve similar grades. So they do take into account the grade span of the district when they do these calculations. It also uses multiple years of data. So I think that as a school or a district of one school is important, because you don't want to have a particular anomaly based on a cohort that may be, extremely high performing versus a year when there's a cohort that may be, needing improvement. And when they say reported from most schools, they do have conditions on, like, they will not report data for cohorts of less than n equals 20, just because the data set is too small. So that's why it says for most schools. So getting right into the details, and I know this is small. I was hoping to run live, but I did take screenshots just in case the system would be, iffy. So our accountability percentage, which I've circled in red, is at 99th percentile. So we are literally at the highest percentile that we can achieve, meaning we're performing at a very high level. We have actually consistently been at this level. So I think that's credit to all the teachers and staff who work here. And also, again, I have to thank the board, because you approve the budget. You allow us to buy the supplies and curriculum and hire the people that we need. We have 126 people on the payroll, roughly 126 people on the payroll this year. We continue to grow. Most of those people are in what are called student-facing positions, working with students. And we also try very hard to be wise and, sensible in where we spend our money. So we're operating at a very high level. If I drill down into growth, which is what I mentioned was probably the most key metric that DESE is now looking at, because they are very concerned with the slow growth or lack of growth statewide for scores post-COVID. Their comparison is always, how is a district doing today in 2025 compared to 2019, which was the last year prior to COVID. So they look at growth for English language arts and mathematics. And all groups, and I put, these are their definitions, are expected to demonstrate annual growth in student performance. So that is the DESE overarching message to every school district in the Commonwealth. Every year you must grow performance. The actual percentage of growth and target growth numbers are set by DESE. We do not control that. We get every year in the summer, we get a spreadsheet in their security portal, we download it, we look at it, and they set a particular percentage number. They also define something called student growth percentiles, SGP, to measure how a group of students' achievement has grown or changed over time. So those are sort of in your, if you want to, remember one thing from all of this is we are always having to grow. That's what DESE wants. How they sort of rank or calculate this in their accountability system is they award points for growth and meeting your targets on a scale of 0 to 4 points. Okay, so they award points for making improvement relative to the group's own annual target. So to be considered on target, a group must earn 3 points. For a group to be above the target, and again, this is the DESE target, you're awarded 4 points. So you really want to score high in the point system. And I'm going to show you charts. And again, these charts are available on the DESE public website. So for English language arts, the detailed data is here. You will see on the left a group. There are 2 charts because the first chart is what's called non-high school. which is grades 3 and up, 3 to 8. And then the chart below that says high school is clearly grades 9 through 12. I highlighted, or I drew a red box around the reason code because that sort of summarizes our growth. You'll see in all the groups that are mentioned for non-high school, we've either had high typical growth or exceeded typical growth. So those are really good numbers. If you move one column to the left where it says points, you'll see we had 3 or 4s. We had 1, 2 for Hispanic. So, but that was that. So we grew, but it was low growth, if that makes sense. If you look at the high school chart, those rows are blank because the cohort size is less than 20, so they will not report it. But in aggregate for high school, all students, we exceeded typical growth. So again, for statewide data, if you were following the headlines, the state is concerned that English scores across the state have not recovered fully to the 2019 levels. And so us being able to show either high growth or exceeding growth for, in aggregate is something that I think contributed very highly to our 99th percentile. So moving right along to math, similar, it's the same format for the table. Top chart is non-high school, which is grades 3 and up. They do not administer MCAS below grade 3. And then bottom chart is for high school. So again, if you look at the red box for math, we exceeded growth in all of the categories and all of the groups, and also in high school for students. And this was not the case across the state. Math is still lagging across the state compared to their 2019 pre-COVID numbers. So those are math and English. The other one, I'm just going to show you one of the high school ones because the high school ones, because the cohort, the N is less than 20, a lot of the table is blank, so it's aggregate, but annual dropout rate, we exceeded the target, meaning we did not have many dropouts. You can see in the columns, the rate was 0%. So that's good because clearly we want students to be able to complete their high school and, move on to other things. Some of the other indicators, I mentioned chronic absenteeism. For our 9 high school students, we exceeded the targets. For high school, we met the targets. And what this means is, we saw an increase in chronic absenteeism like other districts in the state right after COVID. We were, even then though, we were below the state averages for chronic absenteeism. And so our numbers over the last 5 years have improved, and we've exceeded the targets they set, or in the case of high school, met targets. I do want to mention that they do take into account all absences. So even if a student might be on a leave of absence, a medical leave or something like that, that would contribute to absenteeism. We are finding though that some of these numbers for absenteeism are related to parents taking vacation during the school year. They are considered absence by choice, but that typically is more of where we're seeing absences as well. There are districts that are over the state average, like there may be like 20, the state average right now for chronic absenteeism is around 18 to 20%, but it was as high as almost 40% just after COVID. So if you think about almost 40% of a student had 10% or more absences, that's quite high. They really want students to come back into the school buildings. The other metric is advanced coursework. Again, it relates only to high school, and we exceeded the targets. And I do think that's because we are an IB for all schools. So all students are taking at least advanced courses, which is not true in some schools. So that's my drill down. I think, again, I exceeded 5 minutes. I like to close with something that's like displayed around the school. And I sent a note earlier today to the parents that today is the very last day of the Krispy Kreme donut fundraiser for the theater club. And so if you on the board or any audience members wants to buy a box of glazed donuts, The QR code is there and also the link. This is actually the first time we've done this type of fundraiser. So we're seeing how many boxes we can sell to support the theater club. So thank you very much. If there are any questions?
Anybody? There's a lot of data.
I'll take advantage just to point out that the I just lost this. The definition of retention, according to the Massachusetts Department of Education, is retention is defined as students repeating the same grade as the previous school year. And so you want a low number, not a high number. And it's attrition that you want. You also want low number of attrition, but retention is repeating a grade. I want to, could you go back to some of the detailed information on the spreadsheet? Because did you go through the different subsections that were described there? Because I want to highlight the fact that the granularity that they go into. I mean, it wasn't like
Okay, wait,
back.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, there, that's a good one.
Okay.
And so the focus here is that they break down all students, lowest performing students, high need students, English learners, low income, students with disabilities, and different racial subgroups as well. This is the English side, which we had 3s and some 2s. I will also point out
We
that
had 1, 2, yeah.
1, 2. Typically, people talk in immersion programs for children that English is delayed some when you're in an immersion program until you get to like 5th or 6th grade where you catch up. And so there's an expectation that there can be delays in English acquisition for elementary immersion programs. I'll also suggest that Latino students are trying to be trilingual in some cases, and that would introduce further delays. And so I think the math scores are more representative of how the school is doing broadly, where it's 4 for 4 for every subgroup that's listed there. And so that's good. Can you also, one of the things that allows us to get the results is we have strong staffing for special education and instructional support. And part of the staffing is paid for by grants, the special education grant, a Title I grant. And so the school uses grant funding to help hire instructional support and special education staff, and also to pay for professional development to advance teacher training. So that's how grants are used by the school in some significant areas. And so that's all I have to say there.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that Kathy, are you completed now?
Yes,
Okay,
I am.
Okay, then we move on to the executive director's update. We've got 10 minutes.
I'm going to be a lot shorter than 10 minutes. We are, in terms of the 300 Venture Way, we have a contract to do the work to fix a storm drain, and that's required for this school to be done because again, the Hadley Conservation Commission has given us sort of a friendly directive to fix it. It was something that was built by the people who built the building, but they never maintained it for 20 years, so it sort of reverted into wetlands and ceased to function as a stormwater management system. And so we're being instructed to restore it to being a stormwater management system. And so that's one expenditure that we're doing. And then we've just concluded a contract to have the first floor space really brought up to code, principally for it to be a school space. And part of that is to enhance the fire rating of some walls to meet school code. Some of it is to widen particular area corridors to make sure that the width of the corridor is wide enough to support students. They need to be 6 foot wide in different situations. And also we'll be working to upgrade the fire alarm system. That a regular office building typically has speaker strobes or horn strobes for fire alarms. If for a school, you need to have something called a speaker horn strobe basically that allows the fire chief to come in, and there's a microphone in the firebox. And when he walks the building, he can use the microphone to speak to the entire school. And so the fire alarm system needs to be upgraded to that level. And the idea here is that we'll have the first floor be school rated, and the initial use will be that people have an immediate interest for is to do a fitness room on the first floor. And we want to make sure that that's something we can do. So that's sort of what's going on there. And I think there's other important topics we have to do today. So I'm going to stop here unless people have questions. Okay.
Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to any new business. I hear none. So we're now going to move into executive session. Do we need to vote to go into executive session?
We need to read the
I need
executive
to read
session,
that,
and
but
then
do I
do a
need to
vote,
and then
vote at the end of it.
Okay, fair enough. Executive session. Vote to enter executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A Section 21A1 to discuss complaints or charges brought against a public officer and staff member, principal, executive director, and the board, and vote to enter executive session in pursuant to MGLC 30A Section 21A7 to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law approved executive session minutes. The board will not return to open session at the conclusion of executive session and will adjourn therefrom. Vote to enter executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A Section 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of a public body, and the chair so declares, then we adjourn. So we now need to vote to go into executive session.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. I'll do a roll call vote. Gina.
Yes.
Gina. Okay. Cynthia. Cynthia.
Yes.
Okay. Mike.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes, and I am alone.
Okay. Anne, are you alone?
Yes.
Okay. Greg's still not present, right? Shinpei?
Yes.
Okay. Iris?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So.
And I am alone as well.
I'm assuming everybody is alone. Maybe I should have made that clear.
No, you can't.
Okay, then we're in executive session. So we now,
we need to make sure that everyone's left. Okay, Charles, it's time for you to go. And that's it. And I need to get Kimberly here. I'm not quick enough.
I just want to confirm that someone is able to take the minutes for this executive session, because Betty was doing it in the regular session.
That's right. You're bouncing a lovely baby.
I am.
Can we see it?
You need to get recording off.
Come on.
What's happening there?
I don't know. It's
Oh, is that me?
I have to reclaim the host.
Oh, okay. Reclaim host or.
Yeah, and I've reclaimed it, and now I'm going to stop recording. Okay.